I'm Kira Morgan. Thanks for joining me as we are visiting with Cliff and BoBo from the Finding Bigfoot series. Remember, you can meet them live this weekend at Chinookwan's Casino Resort. And first, we are talking with BoBo Fay. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in doing Bigfooting?
I just saw the PG film when I was, the Patrick Ewing film when I was a little kid, and I just was into it ever since then. And just read whatever books I could find and then newspaper articles. And then when I got older, I moved up near where the Patrick Ewing film site was filmed and went to school at Humboldt State University and just been poking around here for the last 30 plus years.
That's awesome. And how did you meet Cliff and the rest of the crew?
I started getting into the internet a little bit, and I started meeting people. Like I found there's other people like me on there, and one thing led to another. And I got in with the BFRO, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, and through that I met some other people. And then Cliff wasn't in it at the time, but some friends, mutual friends, did a Bigfoot outing, and Cliff was part of it. And everyone told me how cool Cliff was. I got to meet Cliff. I got to meet Cliff. Then a year later, I think in 2005, we met up and became best of friends and started squatching together ever since.
That is so cool. And you've been squatching not only all over the United States, but all over the world, right?
Yeah, well, on the show, we went to 5 continents.
That's awesome. And so,
So everywhere but Africa and Antarctica.
well, those are on the list, right?
Yeah, I guess we're going to Africa next year for a private expedition. Some rich guys from the Explorers Club. It's like a famous group, like Teddy Roosevelt was in it, people like that. They're going to have a conference on hidden animals, like cryptid animals, like hominids, like undiscovered hominids.
Uh-huh.
And so I guess they're going to take us over there for that. So that'll be a chance to do it over there. So then we know they're not in Antarctica, so they're all checked off.
That's so cool. So tell us about your most exciting Bigfoot encounter.
Well, undoubtedly it was the first one I knowingly had. In hindsight, I had been around them when I had some logging jobs up off the Klamath River in Northern California. I'd been around them, but then in 2001, it was May 21st, 2001, it's a long story, but I had a big aggressive one come in where I was and just raise hell. And there was another one there. They met up together, and it's a really long story. But anyways, I was terrorized and got chased out, and it was pretty intense, really intense. It was the first time I was ever really, really scared. The only thing I could compare it to is when I used to surf and dive all the time. I had a couple close encounters with great whites, and it was that same kind of primal fear. Like, I remember in my mind going, I now know what the word horror really means, like horrified.
Well, and I think, since this has come out, and the BFRO has become more popular and the TV show, I think it's been great because, like you, a lot of people have encountered something and encountered a Bigfoot, and they just never realized it, and so a lot of people kind of kept quiet about it. So this is great that you guys are doing this and kind of bringing more awareness out about Bigfoot.
Oh, for sure. Like, a lot of people said, because of the show, Finding Bigfoot show, they said, I never knew what those knocking sounds were. Like they said, when they look back on events, all these weird things they could never explain make total sense if you know Bigfoots are real and are in the area.
It absolutely does. I know my he's an avid fisherman, and he's seen things and stuff, and so is my daughter. So speaking of my daughter, she's here with me. She works with me, and she has to know, how did Monkey get her name?
Well, it was kind of a two-part thing. My friend Paul Graves had a song called Mountain Monkey, and it was I forget his dog. His band, Moss Dog was the band. There's this song Mountain Monkey, and I used to always go Mountain Monkey, and then my friend's 2-year-old son was calling her Monkey, so then I just named her Mountain Monkey. and that's how she got her name.
I absolutely love her. She's so adorable, and we love seeing her on the show.
August 1st is her birthday.
Oh, really? Oh, how old is she going to be?
15.
Oh, my goodness, already? Wow, that's amazing.
You're going to have her quinceañera.
So what is your favorite squatching spot? Do you have a favorite place?
That's impossible to say. I mean, there's places I like to go because it's just beautiful, and I mean, like the Pacific Northwest, it's way more comfortable, you know. I just enjoy it the most, but you can go to like some swamp. I just got back from some swamp and down by Boggy Creek, the famous Boggy Creek movie, right? Down from there, I was just in a bayou for a week and got bit up by chiggers and mosquitoes, and it was hot and humid. And it's not, it's cool, but it's not, you know, it's just flat and swamp. And I just missed filming one down there. I thought I was recording it, but the SD card, it turned out, was corrupted. It was brand new, and it recorded some stuff, but it didn't record other stuff. But the South really produces, and so does like that whole stretch from like Michigan, Minnesota, down into like Ohio, southern Indiana, southern Illinois, going into Kentucky, and West Virginia and Tennessee. Like that whole zone, there's a lot of action through there.
And let's talk about the event, of course, coming up this weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun. What are some things you guys are going to be doing?
I guess we're doing a town hall meeting like we did on the show where witnesses come forward and tell their stories. What exactly you had in mind, but we'll do like a informative talk on a little bit of history of Bigfoot, and then what's going on nowadays, like the latest, news, like breakthroughs and discoveries that related to Bigfoot.
Well, we're really looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Let me ask you just real quick a couple more questions. Have you ever done some squatching here on the Oregon coast? And if so, where and how'd it go?
For me, down on the, because I live in Humboldt, just an hour and a half below Oregon border, and I used to commercial fish up out of Brookings and then Port Orford and in there, and I pulled into Newport and Charleston and all those places. So back then I'd go out when I wasn't, like if we were blown in or there was a closure or whatever, I'd go out in the local areas. And then I've done some dedicated squash trips through there, like where I'd kind of go surf in the morning and poke around the woods in the afternoon and evening. And I've never had anything definitive happen on the coast. It's great habitat.
It certainly is. Well, sweetie, you're going to have a time that you come with us, and we'll take you squatching with us.
I'll show you where I've seen some things.
That's my daughter, Sarah.
Hi.
You have a good spot?
Oh, yeah. When I was a teenager, we spent, like 80% of our lives driving around in the woods on the logging roads and stuff, and we've seen some pretty squatchy things.
You heard some knocks and stuff, right?
Yeah, we've heard knocks. We've heard screams, and one time there was a forest that had been logged, and then it was starting to grow back up, and the trees were probably about 6 foot tall, and we saw eye shine above the trees. It was insane.
Yeah, they're there, man. They're there for sure. I always continue to go on the coast more, but a lot of the problem there is there's not like a lot of national forests or anything like that along the coast. It's all private, mostly.
It is, yeah.
So, last question. What is in line for the future for you guys?
Well, right now, a couple months ago, we started doing a podcast, so we're doing that. And Cliff's opening a museum up in Boring, Oregon. He'll tell you all about that. Then I hope to get something like that going, too. And then I've got a little Bigfoot tour company. I'm just mostly just doing private expeditions where people get a hold of me, but I'm going to start opening it up to the public and do public expeditions. And I've been planning for the last 25 years to open some kind of Bigfoot roadside attraction / museum, like gift shop, museum, Bigfoot statues and things like that people can take pictures with, and shop like little information centers. So I'm hoping to do that, and I'm probably looking to do that up most likely in Washington, the Olympic Peninsula area.
It's so pretty up there.
I love it. I go up there as much as I can.
Thank you so much, Bobo. We're so excited to meet with you this weekend. And now we're joined by Cliff Barackman. How you doing today? I'm so glad you were able to talk with us.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Yeah, it's a good day so far. I'm at the museum working on it right now. It's my second-year wedding anniversary, so I got plans for tonight.
Oh,
Yeah,
yay.
nothing's going to ruin my day if I can help it.
So how did you get started in doing squatching?
Well, I've always been interested. Like, so when I was a little boy, growing up in the 1970s, I always just loved monsters. Godzilla and Frankenstein and Bigfoot. I just kind of threw it into the mix. It's just one of these weird sort of things that I enjoyed being interested in. Because I was always that kid in class that was good. Sure, time to do weird stuff. My homework was done, so I could read the cool books about monsters or something. And I've always kept the interest in the weird and stuff. But really, it was when I was in college that I went from just like, oh yeah, Bigfoot's a fun, quirky, eccentric thing, to, oh my gosh, there's science behind this. Because I ran across this book that was a collection of scholarly articles written on the Sasquatch. And that's when I first realized, well, this isn't just like a quirky, what is it, like a social phenomenon or like some sort of cult thing, not like religious cult, but like, weird, quirky cult stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually a legitimate avenue of scientific inquiry. And I've always fancied myself somewhat of a citizen scientist, I think is the term that they're using now, kids today. Yeah, a citizen scientist, because I was an amateur astronomer for years. In fact, I still am. I have a pretty nice telescope that, I break out every once in a while. And, and I've always been aware that amateur scientists, like amateur astronomers, for example, make significant contributions to professional astronomy. They're the ones that discover most of the comets. They're the ones that discover most of the asteroids. And Bigfoot or primatology or anthropology or, squatching, whatever you want to call it, essentially has the same opportunity for amateurs. That, I don't have to be a PhD in paleoanthropology to make a significant contribution in the field of Bigfoot. I can just go camping and keep my eyes open and try to be a good citizen scientist and collect the evidence as it comes to me. And that's what I've been doing, so...
And that's so awesome. And it's so great that they do that with ocean science and all different aspects, that how people can get involved that have an interest and don't feel so alienated anymore, so to speak. So let's talk a little bit about your favorite places to squatch.
Oh my gosh, for me it's Oregon, because that's the reason I live here. I'm a transplant. I'm from California. I grew up in Long Beach, California, and that's a long ways from Bigfoot. So I essentially planned my life so I can live where I used to vacation. And where I live in the woods outside of Portland, Oregon. I'm kind of right in the middle of all the Bigfoot. Like I can go north all the way to British Columbia. I can go south all the way to California and the Sierras. It's about an equal drive. So I love the Pacific Northwest for Bigfooting in general. It's kind of the home of Bigfoot in some ways. It's not like Bigfoots weren't in other places, but the words Bigfoot and Sasquatch come from the Pacific Northwest. So and it's just part of the culture here. So I feel very at home up here, and therefore it's my favorite place to go Bigfooting.
It was always my favorite, and we used to get really excited when you guys would come to Oregon on the show. And I used to love it when you do the competitions between Oregon and Washington and Oregon and California. Those were always really fun to watch.
Yeah, they were fun episodes. It was a lot of fun to film, of course, as well. And that's the whole thing about Bigfoot, is that, you can be as serious as you want about it, and you can be all scientific, and, and I encourage people to do so. But at the end of the day, if it's not fun, don't do it. Because Bigfooting really is fun. And I think that's cool. That's one of the neat things about it.
And it's so exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about your most exciting or memorable Bigfoot experience?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can. That's just so hard. For about 100 episodes, really, and not even the episodes, because, Finding Bigfoot is just a blip on the radar. I'm still Bigfooting, and I was for 20 years before it. So I don't know. There's just so many. It's going down the list. Having rocks thrown at me and is pretty weird, especially like I was near the Patterson-Gimlin film site and having rocks thrown at me. That was kind of cool. I kind of fancied that, hey, maybe that's, Patty's descendant or something. Or I saw one in North Carolina while filming the show through a thermal imager. That was kind of cool.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I remember once, years before the show, BoBo and I were out in Northern California on his birthday. And we heard whistles and knocks coming up the river, and that's kind of a cool birthday gift. twice on the show, actually, thinking about it. Once in Utah and once in Illinois. We were Bigfooting on my birthday for the show, filming, and we got Bigfoot activity on both nights. And I don't know, I could just go down the list. There's just so many cool things that I've got to do and weird experiences over time. It's hard to narrow down just one.
Have you ever gotten like really close to one or seen one up close? I know that they're very elusive and it's always a quick glimpse kind of thing. But have you had that encounter?
Yeah, I saw one through a thermal imager at about 70 yards. I wasn't very close to it, but I was watching this thing navigate a wooded hillside at night without a flashlight or anything. I was watching it through night vision. Otherwise, it couldn't have been seen. It wasn't really night vision. It was a thermal imager that sees heat. So I saw this thing, navigating the wooded hillside without a light, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, about 2 miles off trail. But that's the only time I've ever put eyes on one. I've heard them lots of times, and of course I've tracked them, and I've smelled them. I've had rocks thrown at me, been screamed at from real close, and all that sort of stuff. But the only time I've actually visually seen one, it was at night through a thermal imager, so I had to use a tool. I'm still waiting for that cool, like daytime sighting where I don't have to use any technology to see it.
Yeah, my daughter, I'll let her tell you a little bit about it. I'm a bad mom. My teenagers would go out into the woods and they'd go squatching.
Well, actually, when I smelled one, I wasn't even in Oregon. I was actually in on the Montana-Wyoming border.
Oh, that's right.
At a really cool place called Earthquake Lake, and we were taking a hike, and we 100% smelled one.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't a bear.
Well, how would you describe the smell?
Mixed between garbage and BO.
Yeah. I always say I've smelled one 3 times. One, it was kind of skunky, but the other 2 times, even though they were hundreds of miles apart, they're both in California, but hundreds of miles apart, they both smelled like dog crap Parmesan.
Yeah.
Accurate. I grew up in Eddyville. I don't even know if you know where that is. It's really rural in Lincoln County. And I've smelled quite a few bears in my life, and it was really distinctly different. Yeah. And very localized, too, I find. That's one of the weird things about Sasquatch smells, is that very often they're like associated with a specific place, and you walk 5 or 10 feet off one direction, you don't smell it anymore. Right.
So you come back into it, and suddenly it's there again. It's so strange. I don't know how that all works, but that's what the reports say, and that's what my experiences also say. So.
What's really great about the things that you guys are doing is bringing it to the forefront, because a lot of us, have heard it or have heard, had these encounters. My husband's a fisherman. He's had encounters before and it was kind of unexplainable. And now it's like, oh, that was probably, a Bigfoot. And, doing the town halls, you must get a lot of people that kind of come out and are really happy that you guys are bringing this to light and to the forefront.
Yeah, it kind of helps validate them in a way, and it validates their lifestyle. It validates Native Americans as well because of their oral traditions, the stories they have of it, and the oral histories. It validates people in rural America in general, I think. In fact, I often say that Bigfoot is the best-kept secret in rural America. Nobody seems to be talking about it, but almost everybody has a story or knows somebody who does. Even to the point where, I was at the museum last week, and we had a delivery guy come, and I was asking him, so, yeah, it's going to be a Bigfoot museum. You ever see a Bigfoot? And he goes, no, I've never seen something like that. That's weird. So what's the weirdest thing you ever saw in the woods? He goes, well, I saw these really big footprints one time. Oh, right. Yeah, no Bigfoot, just really big footprints. Great, yeah. Yeah, you just scratch the surface, and the stories are right there, just waiting to be told. But people are afraid to say these things because they don't want their reputation ruined, and, they don't want to be thought of as crazy or on drugs or whatever, whatever fear they have. But I'm telling you, if they find a safe place, like at a town hall meeting or a Bigfoot researcher or something like that, or this event on Saturday, they find a safe place to share their story. You get to hear all the great ones in places like that. It's amazing.
So, let's talk about this weekend's event. You've got some town halls and questions and answers. Let's talk about some of the fun things you're going to be doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the fun things that we have in store right now is that we're bringing a small mobile display from the Bigfoot Museum I'm opening next month. So there'll be a couple panels with artifacts and historical pieces and art and real Sasquatch footprint tracks and all this other stuff. So that all these things are going to be on display at my booth. And of course, I'll be selling T-shirts and swag and stuff, but all the money goes into the museum, of course. All the money goes into the museum at this point, trying to get a business off the ground. It's like that. But yeah, I guess there's going to be a town hall meeting, so we're going to be hearing some great witnesses, hopefully from the local area, because not a lot comes in from the Coast Range of Oregon. And it's not because Bigfoots don't live there. It's because the people there aren't talking about it. It's a human factor more so than say, outside of Portland, Oregon, because city folk, they go to the woods, they see something unusual, they're likely to talk about it. But if you're living there, you're unlikely to talk about it because you don't want a bunch of people wearing tinfoil hats tromping all over your land trying to shoot one of these things.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully nobody would do that anyway, but unfortunately that's a reality.
People see these things, so.
And we certainly do, as you heard my daughter mention, we certainly do have them here in the Coast Range, and anytime that you guys want to get together and go out squatching with us, we're total game. We'll take you to some of the good spots.
Very good. Very good.
So, have you ever been squatching here on the Oregon coast?
Sure, I have. Yeah, I've been to Tillamook a number of times. Great stuff happens over there. It's a wonderful witness right outside of Tillamook who's been seeing him over there the last couple of years. I've been down to Hebo a number of times, and of course all the way down in the corner of the state, Josephine County. I've done some stuff down there too along the Chetco River. I've been inside right outside of Florence as well. I ran into one down there. So yeah, absolutely.
All right. Is there anything else that you want to add?
I don't know. I would say the North American Bigfoot Center is going to open in mid-July. I mean, that's the Bigfoot Museum that I'm founding with my wife right now. So I always appreciate a plug for that.
Absolutely.
So we'll be the most exciting thing in Boring, I think. Nothing personal against everything else that's here, but there's nothing more exciting than a Bigfoot museum.
Well, and a friend of mine went skiing up Mount Hood, and she was like kind of off by herself one of the trails and was just kind of sitting down taking a break, and she looked up on the tree line and she told me, she said, I swear I saw Bigfoot. I swear I saw something in the tree line. It was not another skier because it looked down and then went back behind the tree, and as long as I stayed there, it wouldn't come out from behind the tree. Every time I looked up, because I was trying to see if it was a she was kind of nervous. She was by herself. And she was like, oh, is that a person kind of stalking me? Or, what is that? And it just stayed behind the tree the entire time until, she finally got up and left. And of course, her camera didn't work. And,
Of course, yeah.
I've heard a lot of things about Bigfoot and the paranormal being linked and devices not working. Have you had any experience with anything like that?
Oh, good question.
I have bad luck in general, so it's hard to tell what might be related to them or not, The device is not working. Not really, no. I have not. I'm kind of an anomaly in that way. Like, a lot of people have had these weird, spooky sort of experiences with Bigfoots, but 25 plus years running, and I've never had anything terribly weird happen around them that can't be explained other ways, I don't know. I'm kind of a weird guy, too. You'd think, weird stuff would be happening to me in the vicinity of Bigfoots, but I have never once had anything, or I've never observed anything that would make me or lead me to believe that Sasquatches are anything but a perfectly normal mammal.
How do you...
Fun in that way, I guess.
How do you think that they're so elusive to people? You've got these people that are trackers and hunters, and I think it's great that one hasn't been, quote, caught. But do you think that they've just kind of adapted over time, or do you have a theory on that?
Well, first of all, they are very intelligent, and they rely heavily upon their hearing, like other ape species do, to figure out what's in the area around them. And humans, we are hopeless in the woods, even the best of us, really. So I think that the number one reason that they've remained out of reach, so to speak, is that people, human beings, underestimate them. And secondly, they overestimate themselselves. And then you add into that their habits of being rather elusive or shy and elusive and nocturnal to boot. So they're mostly active at night. And then you take into consideration the rarity of the species. I'm surprised anybody sees any of them. You know, there's probably 100 times more bears in Oregon than there are Bigfoots. And I'll tell you, and you know, I'm kind of in the woods more than your average Joe, right? I've personally seen 2 black bear in Mountain Hood National Forest. And I'm walking around at night. I'm walking around by myself off a trail. I'm doing everything you should be doing to see lots of bears. And I've seen 2. And there's, 6,000 bears or something in Mountain Hood National Forest. And you hardly ever see those. So,
Do you think that they also travel great distances?
well, the footprint evidence suggests that some do. For example, in 1960s, one individual Sasquatch, a big male, we believe, based on the size of the footprints, his footprints were found in 2 different locations at different times of year, about 60 miles apart. And interestingly, a different smaller set of footprints, presumably a female, were also found in the same vicinities, but there were 2 different females, one for each area, which might shed a little bit of light on their social structure and their habits. You know, maybe they have an orangutan-like social structure where the females stay in an area with its young, and then the males come by and visit basically for booty calls every once in a while. So that might be an interesting, I think that's an interesting speculation, and it's also grounded on data, or founded on data. So I think that is a worthwhile avenue of inquiry, just that we kind of lack a lot of data. We have 2 or 3 different situations where the same individual was frequenting in an area again and again, but it's hard to figure out what they were doing there and why. So, and of course, we don't know much about the sex of the animal, whether it's male or female. So, I don't know. More data is needed, which is where we citizen scientists come into play.
Absolutely. All right, sweetie. Well, I appreciate your time. This has been a fantastic interview. We've had lots of fun. I appreciate you talking with my daughter and I, and we look forward to meeting you guys on Friday.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the appreciation and also the opportunity to talk about Bigfoot with y'all.
Absolutely.
This weekend.
Remember, you can meet them live this weekend at Chinook Winds Casino Resort. Thanks for joining me on Pacific Northwest News and Entertainment. I'm Kira Morgan.